What's going on, Hokies fans? Welcome to our Week 1 edition of Buy or Sell as Virginia Tech gets set and ready to head down to Nashville and take on Vanderbilt in the season opener for the 2024 campaign. Everybody on set, it's David Cunningham, who's in the fourth chair, Andy Bitter across the way, Chris Coleman to my right. I'm Giovanni Heater, and behind the scenes producing the mustache man, Mr. Nick Brown. All right, fellas, without further ado, let's get into it. Week 0 was fun. There was a lot of chaos in college football. We had our preseason lines. Now we get into our game-by-game lines here, and we start out with none other than the quarterback, Kyron Drones. 3 or more touchdowns. Andy, does he have 3 or more on him on Saturday?
I'll buy this one. I think if the number was 3.5, I would have had to think a little bit harder about which way I was going to go on that. 3, it feels like a good number. I feel like the only way he doesn't get 3 is if they roll over them and there's no need for him to throw the ball.
I'm buying. I think if I bought him last week on having 30 plus for the season, even if it was begrudgingly, then I need to buy him having 3 plus against the number 131 defense in the country.
That's a good point. David, what you got?
I'm buying. I think this is a defense that kind of struggled a lot last year. It's going to be interesting. Clark Lee kind of taking over defensive play calling. Yeah, it's going to be different, I'm sure, but this is an offense that knows its strengths, and I think Kyron Drones is one of them. And between passing and rushing, I think it's very achievable for him to get 3 touchdowns. When he was playing and finding a rhythm last year, he did that pretty easily in a couple games.
I bought it as well. Will Stewart bought it as well, and the fans resoundingly bought it. 81% of our nearly 2,000 voters bought it, and Nick Brown bought it. So that's everybody. Everybody bought it for Kyron Drones, 3 or more touchdowns. We move on. Bhayshul Tuten in the backfield, 80 or more rushing yards. We'll start Chris this time.
Buy. You're not going to find me betting on the Vanderbilt defense very much.
Yeah, it's going to be a common theme of this is anything where Vandy's defense is on the field, I'm going to be going the opposite direction of that. So I buy this. I think they're going to run the ball quite a bit, and I think Tuten is primed for a big season here.
Decana?
I bought it. You know what's interesting is after the turn of the season last year, starting with the Pitt game and on, Tuten only averaged 75 yards a game. He had a couple where he ran for over 100, and then a couple where
he had 2 carries.
Tech probably should have given him the ball more. I think 80's achievable, though, and it kind of tied into the next question of it as well. But this is an opportunity for Virginia Tech to kind of set the tone early. I think the offensive line is improved. I think it sets up for a big run day on Saturday.
I bought this one, 280 or more rushing yards. Nick Brown bought it. Will Stewart bought it, and the fans also bought it. Again, our nearly 2,000 voters, 93% bought it. So high confidence in Bhayshul Tuten.
If Tech gets shut down, we are screwed. Everybody is wrong about everything at this point.
All right, our next one, offense, 175 or more yards on the ground. We'll start David this time.
Yeah, I bought it. I think I honestly was tempted about Tuten because the numbers, I mean, again, 75 was what he averaged last year, but then I read Chris's preview afterwards and kind of gave myself a little shot of confidence. I forget how Chris worded it. They couldn't stop anything with a pulse last year, Vanderbilt's defense.
Pretty much.
I do expect Vanderbilt's defense to be improved, but I think the Hokies rushing for 175 yards, that's about what they should be rushing for. So I'm buying it.
Andy?
Yeah, I said buy. They hit this 7 times last year and really hit it almost every time once they revamped the offense. So I think with a focus and the personnel that they have, I think they should hit this.
Buying it. I think after those first 4 games last year, there's only one type of team that could stop Virginia Tech, and that was, your Louisville, Florida State, NC State. Big, physical, strong, tough, disciplined, really tough in the trenches, right? Now, it's the first game of the season. We don't know exactly what Vanderbilt is, but I know what they're not, and they're not either one of those 3 teams up front, so I'm buying.
Nick bought it. Will Stewart bought it. The fans bought it. 74% of our voters bought it. And I decided to go against the grain, not knowing so, because, again, we put all these in and submitted them before we all talked about it and got together. I sold it, and the philosophy here was I kind of want to say, I think this is more just wishful thinking than what will happen, because how do you win a football game and assert your dominance? You run the football. I want to see these receivers fly around, and I want to see them throw it. I want to see Kyron show off the arm a little bit, and because of that, I think it's hard to kind of do both, and I sell them getting to 175, but everybody has a good case for it, and this is what will make our standings at the end look a little different, so when we don't agree. The defense, 2 or more turnovers. We'll start with Chris.
I sold it for no specific reason. I just don't think they will. They probably get 1. I think it's a very realistic expectation, but I have no real reason for saying sell.
I sold this one. Turnovers are tough to predict. Maybe if you're up and the other team has to throw it, a better chance of getting a pick like that. They only hit this number 3 times last year. One of them was that rain-soaked Military Bowl where there was a fumble and the ball on the ground every 3 snaps. So it's not a number they really hit a whole lot last year, and it's a tough one to predict. So I went the under. I sold on this one.
What you got, David?
I also sold it. Tech forced 12. If these numbers are correct, Tech forced 12 fumbles and had 7 interceptions last year. That's about 19. Turnovers, like Andy said, are hard to predict. This isn't a Virginia Tech has good cornerbacks, obviously, but I didn't feel like, and this has been a theme in the first 2 years, the Hokies haven't really been this bunch that forces a lot of turnovers. I think we saw the Hokies really get in the backfield a lot more last year, get some sacks, more tackles for loss, but maybe that's the next step for this defense, getting turnovers. We haven't seen it, but maybe if teams throw it more against Dorian Strong and Mansour Delane, then you'll have more interceptions.
I will interject. I cited the wrong stat here. I was looking at the wrong stats. Look at the opponent's turnovers on that. They got to this number 6 times last year. I'm still going to sell it, though.
Yeah, I'm selling it as well. I think, like Chris said, I think they get 1. Just didn't take the ball away a lot last year, and I know that was kind of one of our keys on the defense coming into the year. Hey, where does this defense show improvement? Well, it would be creating more turnovers and giving the offense more chance. I just don't see it particularly this weekend, but Nick Brown, he did buy it. He thinks the Hokies will have 2 or more. He was the only one to buy it. Will Stewart sold it, and the fans sold it as well. Oh, Will changed it. Never mind. Will had a late. He broke the rules. You have to submit this the night before. And he broke the rules, and he made Nick change the graphic last minute and everything.
Geez.
But when you're the boss, I guess you can do that. You can do that. So Will changed it, and Will bought it. His reasoning, he said, gut feeling, and just to give Nick a hard time. So thanks, Will. Vanderbilt, 300 or more total yards of offense. We'll start with Andy.
I bought this one because 300 sounded low to me. And I looked up last year's, and it was 50-50. Half the teams got there, and half the teams did not. I suppose in my predictions that I'm saying that Pavia is going to be a guy that can go out there and make plays. I think he'll go out and make enough plays to get them over the 300 mark. I don't know if it's going to be much over that, but I'll say they'll get there.
That's my take as well. I think Pavia will extend a few plays for them, maybe on 3rd down, which will get an extra couple drives extended, and they'll get over 300. I think it's really hard to hold an opponent under 300. And even when you do it, like, generally it's barely under 300 with the exception of the Syracuse game last year. Sorry, Gio.
That's all right.
137 yards.
137 yards. So, like,
I forgot how bad
where's the
that was.
Syracuse mention button? It's like the red shirt button.
I know. But so, like, when Tech did it last year, it was 295 against ODU, so just barely. And I think Pitt was in the 270s, right? So it's generally the smarter pick to say they will go over 300, but I don't think it'll be much over 300, and I don't see them scoring much.
What about you, David?
I'm selling it. So they both bought it. I'm selling it. I when Chris mentioned it earlier, the teams that Virginia Tech struggled against last year were those hard-nosed, physical, beat you in the trenches type of teams. And to break it down, Florida State had 452 total yards, most Tech gave up all year. Louisville put up 382, and NC State put up 408. But between Pitt and Tulane, that stretch, outside of those 3 games, Virginia Tech held everybody else below 300 yards. I mean, UVA was close, 286, right? So they're between about 250 to 300. But I think, I agree. I think Pavi's going to make plays, but I think this is a Virginia Tech defense that will kind of wear down, especially up front, Vanderbilt's offensive line. So I am selling it.
All right. I went ahead and sold this as well. I just think Virginia Tech's defense, they might not create turnovers, but I think that they're going to be kind of enforcing their will a little bit. Nick Brown sold it. Will Stewart sold it. And the fans also sold this one. 70% of the voters. That was the smallest number that we've had for a sell.
Beware the garbage time yards.
I know.
Very true.
If
And the
they're-
garbage
if they're
time
up big,
touchdowns.
they could get some yards there at the end.
All right. Will wanted to throw a fun one in here that's not going to count at all, but buy or sell
Gio's
Virginia Tech.
drinks.
Not going to count.
Gio's drinks on his 21st birthday or no?
Yeah.
I'll go the same as the
12
line
and
of
a
the
half.
game. 13 and a half.
Yes. It's a pretty high number. You might be dragging Gio back to the hotel room after that.
13 and a half. That would be I've never had a sip of alcohol in my life.
Hope
so.
there's a trash.
I'm quite a
Hope
lightweight.
there's a trash can in the radio booth.
Yeah, right. Well, Will's actual line was it was more Virginia Tech fans than Vanderbilt fans at the stadium. Do you buy or sell it?
I will sell. I mean, as much as I think a good following is going to go down there, I don't know what this place seats exactly. I don't think it'll be more than half.
39,000.
I don't think it'll be. I think Vanderbilt fans in the opening of their renovated stadium in a season opener will show up for that.
right.
That's not saying that I don't think there's going to be a good Virginia Tech contingent, but to be more than half in the stadium, I think that's a bit.
There's a lot of people going to this game. Virginia
lot.
Tech fans. I think
Are they going to the game, or are they just going to Nashville?
My parents
they'll
are
make
going
it.
down and not going to the
Not going to
game.
the game,
They said
yeah.
we'll see you after and
Yeah.
party.
Most of them will go. I'm selling, but I think it'll be somewhere between 1/3 and half. So we'll call it 40%.
All right.
I will buy it. Now, I mean, hey, I'll be different, and since this one doesn't even matter, I'll just
Does
It
not
doesn't
matter.
count. Yeah.
No, I think it is going to be interesting. I've heard from a lot of friends I went to school with. People are like, "Oh yeah, I'm going into town for the weekend." I'm like, "You don't even come back for Virginia Tech games in Blacksburg." But I guess Nashville is appealing in that regard. There are going to be a lot of people there. 50-50, maybe. I'll be positive. I'll give Tech the slight edge.
It's like a bowl game except decent weather. It's a destination place.
Yeah.
There you go. Nick, what you got?
With a home
More
season ticket base.
more
Right,
destination than Annapolis.
Or New York in December.
Fair. Nick, what you got? Nick's buying it. He believes in Hokie Nation. 75. You heard him. He said 75%.
I mean, do you think
Hokies.
they've even reached the threshold at a place like Duke?
They have. Have you seen that picture?
50-50
Oh yeah.
in the entire stadium.
Have you seen that picture at Duke where he's running in the end zone and it's all maroon?
I know that's sort of like
I
one
thought it was
side
about
of the
50-50
stadium.
the last time I went to a Duke game. That
I
was
don't know, even
2018.
like some of those Duke games, I don't know if it quite got to 50.
I think Beamer's last game in UVA was probably 50-50. But that was obviously a special case scenario.
That UVA Hill was 50-50 last year.
It
I'll
was
buy it
more
for
than that.
fun. I'll buy it for fun. I believe in Hokie Nation, and I actually do feel
This
like
is going to be purely like anecdotal
Yes.
judging this one.
everybody and their sister and their mom and their second cousin is going to this game that I've talked to. Like students that do not care about football and leave before halftime and just go for Enter Sandman at Lane are going down to Nashville for this thing. So it feels like
Are they
everybody's
going to the game or are they going to Nashville?
I don't
We'll
think.
find out.
Yeah, I
that's
guess
a
we'll
good
find
point.
I think Nashville will be overrun with Hokies fans.
It's gonna be awesome. They better play Sandman at the bar.
The stadium itself, maybe I'm a little more skeptical of that.
Fair enough. All right. Well, this was fun, guys. We'll see how the lines all play out, and safe travels to everybody. We'll see everyone down there. Chris, I'm sorry you had to make the mature decision to hold down the fort here.
That's okay. It's not like I'll never make Nashville. Still on the bucket list. I'll get there. And I won't have to worry about a football game to deal with while I'm there.
There we go. All right. For Nick Brown behind the scenes, David Cunningham, Andy Bitter, Chris Coleman, Will Stewart, the fans, I'm Giovanni Heater saying so long, and we'll see you next week.